tonight, returning home to Scotland. The body of the former First Minister Alex Salmond is flown home almost a week after his death in North Macedonia.
He is now back home in Scotland, the country that he led, and he has now been reunited with the people that he loved the most, his family.
Also making the headlines, a teenager admits causing the death of a bus driver in a brutal attack after being refused entry to his coach.
In sport, the Celtic and Rangers managers have hit out at a section of their own club's supporters who use pyrotechnics.
And the untold stories of Scotland's first girl bands. I'm Kellyanne Woodland in Edinburgh.
And I'm Emma Cameron in Glasgow. This is the STV News at 6. Good evening. Back on home soil, the body of former First Minister Alex Salmond returned to Scotland today, nearly a week after his sudden death. A private flight carrying his coffin touched down in Aberdeen this afternoon and was met by his family, friends and the lament of a lone piper.
Earlier, there'd been a minute's silence on the runway in North Macedonia where he died after speaking at a conference. The Alba leader was given a guard of honour before his final journey back home to Aberdeenshire. Our political reporter, Laura Alderman, reports.
Thousands of miles away in the North Macedonian city of Ohrid this morning, the body of former First Minister Alex Salmond, draped in a saltire, began its journey back home to the northeast. This is the last footage taken of Alex Salmond on Saturday afternoon. He was attending a political conference in the Balkan country when he suffered a heart attack and died. As the first ever First Minister to pass away overseas, there was no protocol on how to get his body home. Calls for the RAF and the Scottish Government to step in followed. But at the 11th hour, Scottish billionaire Sir Tom Hunter footed the bill, saying although he disagreed with Salmond politically, he deserved the dignity of a private flight. Almost a week after his death and following days of diplomatic discussions about how he would be repatriated to Scotland, a private plane containing the body of former First Minister Alex Salmond is now arriving at Aberdeen Airport, where he'll be reunited soon with friends and family. His wife Moira and loved ones watched on as the coffin was placed into a hearse and made its way out of the airport as a piper played.
Very poignant and sad to watch Alec returning to Scotland. No question that Alec was hugely admired, respected and loved by so many people in Scotland and outside of Scotland, and that has been reflected in the thousands of messages of condolence that the family have received, and it has been reflected in the genuine tributes that have been paid to Alec over the last week.
A band of pro-independence bikers led the cortege. Some supporters of Alex Salmond came to pay their respects.
Alex was one of a kind. We probably won't see someone like Alex in the next few centuries, let alone millennium.
I felt a wee bit emotional, but felt it was important to come just to pay respects to Alec and to show some support for his family today.
And yourself? And it kind of makes it real, doesn't it? It was a real shock when we heard that Alex had passed.
He meant so much to me, inspired me to get involved in the Yes campaign, and I just wanted to see him come back to Scotland.
His coffin now rests in Fraserburgh, while his family return to his home in Strichen, where they will hold a private funeral in the coming days. A more public memorial service will follow to remember a leader who was part of the political fabric for decades and brought Scotland the closest it's ever been to independence. Laura Alderman, STV News.
Now, he went to work and didn't come home. Bus driver Keith Rawlinson died after being attacked by a teenager who'd been refused entry to his coach. The youngster, who'd been drinking with friends, headbutted and repeatedly punched the 58-year-old, who later died in hospital of a cardiac arrest.
Today, the 16-year-old, who can't be named for legal reasons, admitted causing his death in February this year. Nicola McCally reports.
The court heard that the boy, who was 15 at the time, had been drinking in Elgin town centre earlier that evening, and it was just after 10 o'clock that night that he decided to go home. He came here to the bus station and tried to board a bus which was being driven by Keith Rawlinson. It was said that he was visibly intoxicated, and he was told that he was not allowed to board the bus because he was drunk. Mr. Rawlinson at that point told other passengers that he wasn't going to drive the vehicle until he had spoken to colleagues about the situation. He got off the bus to do so, and it was at this point that he was assaulted, and the court heard that the teenager had head-butted Mr. Rawlinson and then subsequently rained down punches on his head and his body. The court was told that Mr. Rawlinson had initially appeared fine, but when he bent down to pick up the cap that he had been wearing, he collapsed onto the ground. And despite the best efforts of colleagues to administer CPR, he was taken to hospital in an ambulance but never regained consciousness and died later that night. Initially, the boy had been charged with murder, but today he pled guilty to culpable homicide. The teenager cannot be named for legal reasons because he is under the age of 18, but he is 16 years old now. He will appear in court for sentencing back in Edinburgh at the High Court on November the 18th. Nicola McCally, STV News.
Now, it's been nearly a decade since fees were brought in for single-use carrier bags in our shops. Since it began, environmental groups say the number of plastic bags washing up on UK beaches has fallen by nearly 90%.
Conservationists are now calling for a big push forward with plans for other single-use items, as Laura Piper reports.
Peter Deeney from Dumbarton is something of a collector. For years he kept his carrier bags, shoving them into drawers, until the plastic bag charges came in and he realised he now had more than 300 in his home.
I don't know what to do with them. They're just in storage. You don't see much lying about, and the seas are a bit cleaner as well.
Conservationists have already witnessed a dramatic drop in the number of plastic bags on our beaches since the charges were introduced.
According to the data gathered last year, on average, we've seen nearly a drop of close to 90% of bags on beaches in Scotland. So it's fantastic news that that's worked for the environment. And it just shows if that's what we can do for one item, why can't we do it for other items as well?
A government consultation is already underway on moving from bags to life to cups for life. This coffee shop in Edinburgh has already embraced the idea.
We have implemented a slight cost to takeaway cups to try and incentivise the people to use their own cups, bring their own cups, instead of single-use throwaway cups that end up in the rubbish, hitting the landfill. It became quite commonplace. It's been quite a positive change.
An estimated 388 million single-use cups were used in Scotland between 2021 and 2022. That creates around 5,500 tonnes of waste.
Meaning if our cups go the same way as the plastic bag, then we could be looking at even cleaner beaches in the years ahead. Laura Piper, STV News.
OK, let's take a look at other stories now. And 2 people from Glasgow who died in a crash on the M6 have been named. 42-year-old Jaroslav Rosa has been described as a cherished chef and friend by his employer Wagamama, whilst 33-year-old spa therapist Jade McEnroe's colleagues called her the kindest soul and a devoted mother. Both were killed alongside 2 children, aged 15 and 7, when the car they were travelling in was hit head-on. Another child remains in hospital, while the driver of the other vehicle also died.
A teenager who killed a pensioner half an hour after he was freed by police following a knife attack on a shopkeeper has been ordered to be detained for 40 months. The 15-year-old boy admitted assaulting two men on the same day in the south side of Glasgow, causing one man, 70-year-old Patrick Colquhoun, to strike his head on the ground and later die.
The SNP's chief executive has announced he is stepping down after just over a year in the role. Murray Foot said he could no longer make the personal commitment required for the job. He was appointed after Peter Murrell, Nicola Sturgeon's husband, quit the position.
International tourists are estimated to have brought £1.5 billion to Scotland's economy in the first half of this year. Latest figures from Visit Scotland show nearly 2 million people visited from overseas between January and June. This is a 14% increase from the same period in 2023 and a 46% increase on the year before COVID hit.
It's a fantastic place to be. Tourism is one of Scotland's key growth sectors. It supports 1 in 11 jobs across Scotland and 1 in 11 businesses. So to see this growth is fantastic.
And archaeologists are carrying out fresh digs at one of Scotland's most significant battlefields. University of Glasgow experts are teaming up with volunteers in the search for new clothes at Culloden. The site near Inverness witnessed the final battle of Jacobite Rising in 1746.
A 29-year-old woman has had her life turned around after being diagnosed with a rare form of cancer when she found a lump in her mouth in August last year. After several successful operations, her father now plans to raise cash for the hospital, which helped her and cancer research. A warning: there are some distressing images in this report by Rahim Cham.
So they had to go through my neck to make an incision to get rid of the rest of the cancer, to make sure they got all of it.
That was just part of the ordeal 29-year-old care worker Victoria Christie went through to remove a rare form of cancer from her mouth. It all started when she found a lump in the roof of her mouth one morning. After several medical tests, she was diagnosed with a cancerous salivary gland tumour. The family were left in shock.
Right, when you hear that word, you instantly think of, is this going to be fatal? How long has she got it? What kind of cancer is it? And our twin sister, Michelle, just burst into tears. And I said to Michelle, and our older sister, Donnelly, said the same. Michelle, tears is not the answer here. We've got to stand together as a family. Be strong, get ourselves together, put our faith in the doctors, and fight this, and support Victoria in every way that we can.
Victoria went through 4 operations. The final one lasted 10 hours.
The third time was to take a good majority of it away and see how it healed up, but unfortunately the healing wasn't so great that I was left with a hole in my throat. So the skin and muscle was taken from my arm to be put into my mouth to cover the hole. They had to go through my neck. The nerve damage might happen, so I could have slurred speech, I could have a drip to my face. Thankfully, Dr. McCall was able to bypass that.
Between 40 and 60 people are diagnosed with a cancerous salivary gland tumour in Scotland every year.
So untreated, a cancer like this would definitely end someone's life. And the stage that that patient is in when they first present determines survival outcome. Catching it at the stage we did, we're very optimistic that we've treated for cure, and we follow Victoria for definitely 5 years, but probably for the rest of her life on an annual basis, just to check it doesn't crop up anywhere else.
Victoria is now cancer-free.
So he just turned around to us all and says, we're now cancer-free, so we just all burst out crying and just hugged the surgeon.
Yeah, total relief.
However, her road to recovery hasn't been straightforward.
I still don't have full strength in my arm. I don't know if it will come back. It's not really been really good on my mental health either. I keep waking up in the middle of the night thinking I'm still in hospital, and yeah, it's not been very nice.
There's 720 cases will be every year of that unique cancer, and yet there is no support for the people that are getting diagnosed for it. But you're just left in limbo and you've got to try and deal with it yourself. It's not very nice. There should be a support mechanism in there.
The retired drummer is organising a fundraising event to raise awareness and support the oral maxillofacial unit at Queen Elizabeth University Hospital and Cancer Research UK.
Still going through the recovery period, but she's walking in a straight line now, and it's a good line. It's a good feeling to see her coming through it.
Raheem Cham, STV News, Glasgow.
Well, Raman's here now, and Celtic and Rangers managers have been speaking out about pyrotechnics.
That's right, Emma. Brendan Rodgers and Philippe Clement on the same page on this one. Now, Celtic and Rangers were fined by European football's governing body, UEFA, this week for the use of pyrotechnics, and both managers today had their say.
STV Sport, sponsored by the C.R. Smith Autumn Sale.
Good evening. Brendan Rodgers and Philippe Clement have hit out at their own club supporters who use pyrotechnics. Rodgers says those who don't really care about Celtic, while Clement has called on Rangers fans to follow the rules. Both clubs were this week sanctioned by UEFA for the use of fireworks at recent European Games. Here's Ronnie Charters.
It has become a regular sight for the old firm in Europe. Fans using pyrotechnics. This week again saw both Celtic and Rangers fined by UEFA for their recent matches against Dortmund and Lyon respectively. The Parkhead club have also been given a suspended ban, meaning any future use of pyros would see away fans locked out for one game. Today, both managers had their say.
It's nothing to do with football. And if you do keep doing it, you're showing that you don't really care. You don't really care for the team, you don't care for the support, and you don't care for your club, because the club ultimately are getting fined as well. So if you keep doing it, you're clearly showing that you're actually not really worried about your own club.
Everything where the club gets fines for, it's a bad thing for the club, for everybody working in the club, but for the fans also. So it lowers the budget for other things, where for the fans also really important. So they need to be smart and follow the rules.
Celtic are preparing for their top-of-the-table clash with Aberdeen tomorrow and could see Cameron Carter-Vickers return. Greg Taylor remains out, but Rodgers confirmed they will make a late call on Carter-Vickers with Atalanta in the Champions League on Wednesday.
We were told at the time it could have been anywhere between 2 and 3 months, but it's just not wanting to push him back in too early, which might then set him back. So he's doing really, really well. We don't think he's too far away from being where he wants to be.
Elsewhere, Philippe Clement is preparing his team for their trip to Kilmarnock on Sunday. Former Rangers player Ryan Kent is a free agent after being released by Fenerbahce this week. So would Clement be interested in bringing the attacker back to Ibrox?
Of course, I know the player, and I know already a long time, because the moment he went to Rangers, I was in talks with him to get him to Bruges, that moment. But there was a better deal, I think, in Rangers in that way, so he chose for that. So I know him a long time, but I'm not going into rumours about bringing in players or not.
Ronnie Charters, STV Sport.
Now, after Sean Rooney's contract at St Mirren was ended by mutual consent, manager Stephen Robinson admits it's not ideal from a football perspective, but has challenged other players to step up. Rooney, who joined the Saints in the summer, was initially suspended by the club last month after being arrested and charged with allegedly assaulting a woman in Glasgow. Following an investigation, the defender has left St Mirren.
As I said, the club made a statement, so the club made a decision, and I think it's quite clear in the statement. I'm not allowed to say any more on that in terms of an ongoing investigation, but I think it's quite clear in the statement. Obviously, it's not an ideal situation. I've lost a player that we can't really replace until January, so that's an issue for us with the injuries that we've got.
Neil Critchley expects hard work, commitment and passion from his Hearts side as he prepares to take charge of his first match, but has warned it will take time to fully implement his vision for the team. The Englishman's appointment as head coach has been met with scepticism by sections of the Tynecastle support, but Critchley is focused solely on delivering a much-needed victory, as Jamie Bothwick now reports.
He's inherited a team that's gone from runaway third-place finishers to rock bottom of the Premiership. Neil Critchley has only been in charge of Hearts for 4 days, but he believes he can get the season back on track.
Whenever there's a change, I've said you've got to be open-minded.
People can be resistant to change, but the players have seemed to have responded in a positive fashion. We hope we see some of that on the pitch tomorrow, but of course it's going to take some time to get to the team that I want us to be in the future. But there's certain things that a Hearts team can be, and hard work, effort, commitment, passion, those are things that are in our control.
The appointment has raised some eyebrows. Critchley has landed in the capital after being sacked from his last 2 jobs in the English lower leagues. Jan Danda knows the head coach better than most, having come through Liverpool's youth academy with Critchley in charge.
It'll be good football, possession football, and hopefully dominate the ball in most games, and obviously it'll be good to watch because it'll be attacking football as well. So yeah, but the thing I remember the most about him is a very good person, and he'll take care of everyone. He'll be honest, and no matter who you are around the place, he will definitely give you a lot of respect.
Critchley's first game in charge is against St Mirren at a packed Tynecastle Park, where first impressions can be crucial.
My pride will come from how we play on the pitch, seeing a team that plays the Hearts way and the way that we want to play. But it's a fantastic stadium. It is a brilliant stadium. And tomorrow, hopefully, we give our supporters a performance and 3 points that their support has been deserving of this season.
Jamie Borthwick, STV Sport.
News from Hibs, and captain Joe Newell and Martin Boyle return to the squad from injury for their match away to Dundee United tomorrow. The Easter Road side, who sit 10th in the Premiership with just 1 win from 7 league games, lost 2-1 to Motherwell in their last match before the international break.
There's not been a lot wrong in certain situations, and they feel like it's coming. I do see it every single day, the areas in which we are working on, the improvement coming all the time. But like I've said throughout the whole period here, which is the performance is great and the levels have been good, but we're not winning games, so we need to make sure we can put it all together. And as I say, that's been our full focus on that, and making sure everyone's on the same page with that, and our full focus is on trying to get that this weekend.
Katie Archibald says it's very special after she clinched gold as part of Team GB's team pursuit at the World Cycling Championships last night. The 2-time Olympic gold medalist was back on the bike after missing the Paris Olympics because of a broken leg sustained in a freak accident. Archibald, alongside Megan Barker, Josie Knight and Anna Morris, defeated Germany in the final. Well done to her. That, folks, is all your sport tonight. Have a great weekend. See you again next week.
STV Sport, sponsored by the C.R. Smith Autumn Sale.
Well, we're in for a windy weekend with Storm Ashley sweeping in. Here's Philip to tell us more.
Hello and a very good evening to you. Well, today met Erin named Storm Ashley. It's our first named storm of the current storm season. It starts life as a slack area of low pressure out in the Atlantic, but once that moves across the jet stream, it will rapidly start to deepen. It goes through a process called explosive cyclogenesis. The isobars around the centre of the low pressure tighten, and that's what will bring with it the strong winds that we'll see across much of the country throughout Saturday night and throughout Sunday. With more on that, let's take a closer look at the forecast.
A spell of wows will gradually settle into a scattering of traditional tapas. TUI sponsors STV Weather.
Well, throughout today, we've seen a couple of frontal systems crossing the country, bringing with it some showery outbreaks of rain. That rain will clear eastwards, though, tonight, leaving behind what's actually a fine and dry Saturday for many of us. Before Sunday, we see the arrival of Storm Ashley, but we'll get to that in just a minute. Back to just now, it's turning increasingly wet across western areas. We have this band of heavy and persistent rain. That moves eastwards overnight, so everyone will see rain at some point tonight. As that clears through, though, behind it we will see some drier and clearer conditions developing, with temperatures dropping to lows of around 6 or 7 degrees Celsius. So looking ahead to Saturday morning, like I said, once that band of rain clears, for many of us, it's a fine, dry and bright start to the day. Later on in the afternoon, there is just the chance of some scattered showers spreading in from the north and west and some patchy cloud developing, with temperatures reaching highs of 13 or 14 degrees Celsius, so just down a degree or two to what we've seen over the past couple of days. Then looking ahead to Sunday, the arrival of Storm Ashley from the west. There's already a couple of weather warnings in place. A yellow weather warning for strong winds covering the majority of Scotland. Widely we'll be seeing gusts of between 50 and 60 miles per hour, but across parts of the Western Isles, Argyll and Bute and Caithness and Sutherland, an amber weather warning. Here we will be seeing the strongest gusts of up to 80 miles per hour. Bye-bye.
TUI sponsors STV Weather.
And finally tonight, the untold story of Scotland's girl bands. An award-winning documentary premieres today, looking at the impact and legacy left behind by some of the country's most iconic girl groups.
From facing discrimination to playing with the Rolling Stones, these women have done it all and are ready to tell their tales. Our reporter Vidusha Tiwari went along for a chat.
Playing on the same bill as the Beatles, the Rolling Stones and the Hollies, these sisters redefined what it meant to be in a girl band, becoming the first Scottish all-female group to enter the charts all the way back in 1964. They set the stage for future generations, and now the McKinley sisters are immortalised on the silver screen.
I'm astounded. And I don't know what to do with it, because it's just like I'm 80. What do you do at 80? Nothing. You sit at home. So all this interest is amazing.
But she admits the newfound interest in her work feels bittersweet without her sister. Sheila McKinley died in 2012.
The saddest thing is my sister not being involved in any of this. It had made it much more interesting, because she did other things, besides what I did.
Also featured in the documentary are one of Glasgow's most iconic acts from the 80s. Sophisticated Boom Boom, reunited again after nearly 40 years. They hope the documentary highlights the challenges of fame, but also the sheer joys of making music and having a laugh with your pals.
Actual activity itself, like the rehearsing, the writing songs, the gigging, is really brilliant fun. There are very few things in life that are better fun than that, but the encounter with the industry is not fun, and it chews people up and it just spits them out. But I think that the film has a bit of that, but mostly it just has this great vibe of like what a laugh it is being in a band.
Since yesterday, the untold story of Scotland's girl bands premieres in cinemas today. Vidusha Tiwari, STV News, at the Barclay Studios in Glasgow.
Well, still sounding good, and that's all we have time for this evening.
Have a lovely weekend. Bye-bye for now.
Good night.